Hello everyone and welcome back to JJD TV. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, and I am joined by the politest American you will ever find, Filippo Silva. Filippo, how you doing today?
It's very true. We're most polite, but I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited. I just got the idea to do this actually even before you guys played Brazil, because obviously Canada had two friendlies leading up to Copa America. We took on the Netherlands. We got spanked in the second half, lost 4-0, and Filippo was having some fun on X. Although I will say Filippo has been very supportive of Canada, and I believe we're one of the dark horses, or your dark horse potentially, for the Copa America.
I had Canada making that quarter or semifinal run in Copa America. So as much as people want to pretend, or especially on X, they want to pretend like I'm a Canada hater. And to be fair, I will be rooting against Canada. But when I'm talking about them, I have to be realistic. And when I look at the bracket, as long as Canada gets out of their group, I like their odds till the semifinals, until they have to play Argentina in the semifinals, probably. And I do think you have the player pool to suit the way Jesse Marsch likes to play. Even though I think Jesse Marsch kind of sucks, you have the players to do so, and it's national team, so coaching is a little bit different from the club level. It's a little bit less complex. So we'll see. Jesse Marsch's U12. Like essentially just press U12 tactics, direct tactics work, but we'll see.
We'll see. We also have to note though that Filippo can't help himself when it comes to X. So he sees an opportunity, he sees a 4-0 loss, he'll put a tweet up, and that's what gave me the idea. Is because a few days later, the U.S. men's national team also got spanked 5-1 against Colombia. And we were in very similar boats, and all of a sudden, Canada picked up a 0-0 draw against France. That's when I got the idea to message Filippo, and then I left it a day because the U.S. were playing Brazil, and then they got a 1-1 draw. So identical.
But be honest. Wait. Be honest with me. You thought we were gonna get trashed by Brazil, didn't you? You thought you were gonna have a day today because we thought we were gonna get trashed.
I did, but again, we could have recorded this before Brazil, where you probably would have been even more negative. But I wanted to do it. Made sense to do it after the Brazil match. I didn't think you guys would draw, but I thought it'd be maybe like a 2-1, 3-1 scoreline. So probably a pretty positive. So that's why we're here today. And the topic is going to be, how should Canada and the U.S. men's national team feel going into Copa America after these friendlies? Who feels more confident? They were basically identical scorelines against tough opponents. So Filippo, I'm going to throw it over to you. I want your initial reaction. I mean, I saw a lot of it on X, and I watched a couple of videos, and I tuned into the stream just to see you sweat a little bit. But let me know what your feeling was right after the Colombia match, and then how did it change after the Brazil match?
It didn't change too much, actually. I think we need to be rational about isolated results, and I thought the Colombia match was not a fair representation of the U.S. men's national team, of how they normally look. But I also don't think the Brazil match is a fair representation of how the U.S. men's national team normally plays. I thought both were two extremes. Against Brazil had a lot of chances to score too, so we could have lost by a lot. But the U.S. also had opportunities to score as well. Could have come out with a win. Brendan Aronson wasted a good chance late in the game. I just don't think either game represents the U.S. men's national team very well. And in the Copa America, we're going to probably get more of the normal U.S. that we see. I don't feel like Brazil brought their intensity that I normally see with that national team. That is something to be said. They were friendlies, so it doesn't change too much of how I see this team. I'm still. I think we got one evidence out of these two games is if the U.S. gets out of the group, which I fully expect the U.S. to get out of their group. Right, Bolivia and Panama should finish ahead of them, probably behind Uruguay. The United States will play probably Colombia or Brazil, unless you believe Paraguay or Costa Rica can upset one of them, which I don't think will happen. What I got out of these two games is quarterfinals might be the ceiling for the United States. I just didn't see enough evidence to believe the United States can eliminate Brazil or Colombia in a competitive game right now. I just didn't see it. The Brazil game, which was our better performance, which, as I said, it was a little bit atypical. We don't play that well normally. We still didn't beat Brazil, and Brazil still had better goal-scoring opportunities. Matt Turner made 11 saves. So that's my conclusion from this camp. I'm not very negative. I still think we're going to get out of the group, but I didn't see any evidence to say the U.S. will knock out Colombia or Brazil. We'll get that signature win. I just don't see it. And by the way, just to add to that, maybe we can pull a result against Uruguay. We tie Uruguay and we finish first on goal differential. That can happen. I still haven't seen enough evidence to believe we can knock out Colombia or Brazil. I didn't see it.
What did you make of the fact that your two friendlies leading up to Copa America are probably the two potential teams that you would play in the quarters?
A bit weird, right?
Yeah,
A bit weird.
it is weird. Do you like that? Do you like that you got a look at them? I would imagine, though, even if you do play Colombia, we're not going to see another a 5-1. I mean, friendlies are obviously different, but I just found it very curious that those were the two matchups that you guys set up.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. And when they were planning the friendlies, I heard U.S. Soccer was waiting to see the groups, who would be in the group, because apparently they had they were planning on scheduling with Uruguay, but then Uruguay's in the same group, so like, nah, it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, the odds of playing Brazil or Colombia, or both, even if the U.S. advances to the semifinal, it's pretty big. Those, I'm not a big fan of that, but I mean, I guess like I think a good opponent for us to play, it would have been good to play maybe Argentina and Ecuador that are on the other side of the bracket, and it would have been equally as tough. But it's not what we got.
I thought that would have made more sense. But anyways, moving over now to Canada. I'll get your thoughts on it, Filippo. If you watched, I'm not sure how much of the matches that you watched. It's hard because, like you said, your thoughts on the U.S. men's national team didn't change that much because you knew what Greg was all about going into this. It's hard to reflect like a ton on what Canada did because Jesse Marsch was brand new. So like that first half in the Netherlands match, although the Netherlands were the better team, it was 0-0. I would take that. Both of these were played in Europe. It was in Rotterdam and in Bordeaux, so that makes it obviously more difficult. And then the second, like it's just like everything fell apart. And the biggest scare for me was the fact that people warned that Jesse Marsch wouldn't have a plan B, and that he presses. And it worked in that first half against Netherlands, and then the team completely fell apart. It looks like they ran out of gas, and they got absolutely walked by the Netherlands side, and that was very worrying. And I didn't know what to expect and how things could change that quickly. Jesse Marsch hasn't had a ton of time. He's putting in his new philosophy. It's not always easy to adapt. He's testing different things out, like an Alphonso Davies at left back. He's including new players who are part of the national team, but maybe not part of the starting 11, like a Liam Miller. And all of a sudden, it just kind of seemed like it clicked. And the thing I liked about Jesse Marsch is that just some people look at it as a negative with like that plan B, but he didn't go to the drawing board. He didn't change pretty much anything. He put up the exact same starting 11, just put Crepeau in net, who should be the starter. He stuck to his guns. He said, we will learn from what we did wrong against the Netherlands. He made a few different tweaks, and it was a pretty even match. Like Canada had some pretty good opportunities. Not that the French didn't. They definitely did. We had a nice like players like Liam Miller, who's got the energy, he's got the ability to get up. He's very direct. He almost scored a beautiful goal. It was just a very even game, and there's some argument that Canada could have won it, but they could have lost it. But this is the second-ranked nation in the world, so it was a very positive result going into Copa America. So that changed the way I was looking at it a little bit, because I just didn't know. It almost after the Netherlands game made me feel like it's too soon to get Jesse Marsch coming here this close before the tournament and expecting this team to change. And the France match changed my mind a little bit. So, Filippo, I don't know if you watched the games or anything from it.
I was going to ask you one thing. How seriously does the second-ranked national team in the world take friendlies? Because they went toe-to-toe with Chile. That's not a good team. Chile's in your group, by the way. It was 3-2, I think, France, but Chile had a good few chances here and there. They matched up well against France. In 2018, I'm going way back, but in 2018, the U.S. tied France right before France won the World Cup, and the U.S. didn't even qualify. So I don't know how seriously they take friendlies. So I'll take that result a grain of salt. And I don't want to. That was the same thing I said about Brazil.
Yeah.
Colombia took it seriously, and we saw what they did. Brazil didn't seem to take it seriously. That's why I don't know. Mbappe was on the bench, right?
Yes, and I want to make it very clear as well that these are friendlies. Like it is drastically different than to what we could see, and even Canada treated it that way. Like some of the substitutions they made in the first match were almost like giving guys who were on the bubble a chance instead of guys who are actually part of the team. So I absolutely agree.
What I wanted to say mainly is I don't change the way it doesn't change the way I see Canada based on these two games. I made fun of Canada for losing 4-0 to Netherlands because it's freaking funny. But in the group stage, the reason I still have Canada advancing is I don't think Canada can beat Argentina. Probably try to get a draw. That's probably the best Canada could do. Still don't think you'll pull a draw, but maybe look competitive. But Peru and Chile are two teams that, even though some of their fans will disagree, it's a pure fact. They struggle with physicality. And Canada can thrive on physicality. They can do that. They have fast players, they have strong players. And Jesse Marsh also has a very unique style, not very unique, but he has a style of play that fits those players. So I think they will match up well against Chile and Peru. A very bad Peruvian side that doesn't have Ricardo Gareca anymore. Ricardo Gareca actually is coaching Chile. So the big challenge for Canada will be Chile. And I still think they match up well against that team. That's why I think Canada will advance from the group stage. And not because of Marsh. That's not the reason. And not because of these two friendlies. These two friendlies don't change anything. I think they were just useful for Marsh to get to know his players a bit more. But I think Canada will advance because of the matchups. I don't think that, let's say, for example, I'm trying to think of a group, because a lot of the South American countries, the weaker ones, well, Paraguay matches up well against physicality. I think Paraguay would have been a tougher match for Canada than Chile or Peru, even though they might be worse than Chile right now. You understand that? That's why that's what I meant. Just looking at who Canada plays, that is why.
Yep. No, I agree. If you look back to the World Cup, I mean, I wouldn't put any money. Canada was probably the better formed team going into the World Cup. But look at our group compared to what the United States had. The United States had a group that I thought they had a very realistic chance to get out, and they did. The matchups were in their favor, and Canada, had a very forgettable.
Oh, maybe ask Davey to not waste a penalty kick early on.
The Belgium was an opportunity, but regardless, I don't think that they were going to get a result against the other two nations. They were just too good. And like I said, going into this Copa America, I agree. Like out of the CONCACAF nations, Canada should have the best opportunity, but it is difficult. That was like when you try not to take too much from the friendlies, because like you said, they are friendlies and it's just to take a look. It is also a learning opportunity for Jesse Marsh, who's brand new at this job. There's a lot of question marks around how much time he'd have to put this team together. And maybe you don't think it mattered. Maybe you think that Canada's just got enough skill and the way that they play regardless could match up well against these nations. But Jesse Marsh at least had these two pretty big friendlies. Like Canada has not very recently lined up that quality of an opponent. So I found it very curious to see what some of these players just looked like, even in a friendly environment against some of these teams. So I'm excited to see what Jesse Marsh is going to take away from it. And I want to know from, like, again, you're someone who's followed Jesse's career for a while. Like what would you look from him to take from these two friendlies? Do you think it's all about for Jesse just to take a look at what was there and implement his style? Because over two games, like I kind of told you, the biggest thing I took away is that he didn't change really from what he wanted to do, from even the starting 11 and the players that he was going to rely on. And are you expecting a lot of the same maybe going into Copa America?
He's very stubborn, and he probably liked the result against France, so I would expect the exact same. He doesn't change very often. Even when he's losing, he continues. And that's why I think for national team, he might do all right. Because when you're coaching a club, you have many games, right? Just the league itself is 38 games. How long does it take for you to have 38 games with a national team? How many years? I don't know, man. It might be like a full cycle. It might be like 4 years, right? And that doesn't allow you. That means like you get exposed more, right? Your flaws get shown. Well, I don't think for a national team he might get away with it. I think he's full of himself. I think he's ass. I don't think he's good. And we saw that too at the podcast that he was doing. He's just like saying some like a bunch of nonsense left and right when he was on the CBS podcast. But like I said, he is good at motivating players. And in the national team level, you're not with them for very long. So I think he won't have enough time to do the damage that he does with a lot of the teams he had. And he'll be able to motivate these players and just get them to do some relentless pressing and pull out results. So it's kind of interesting because I'm saying he sucks. I'm saying he's not a good coach, and I don't think he is. He won with Salzburg, which every coach there has won. And even the year after he left, they finally made it to the knockout rounds of the Champions League with the same team. And then he sucked at Leipzig, got fired. What was it? Not even halfway through the season. And then he took over Leeds, saved them from relegation, gave them a little bit of energy, and they were able to escape relegation in 3 months that he took over, the last 3 months or so. And then it was a disaster of a transfer window, and then he got fired halfway through the other season. So he's flopped in two of the biggest leagues in the world. I don't know, man. You know my opinion on Marsh. I did not want him for the U.S. men's national team. Canadians started to react to me as if I was salty that you guys got Marsh. I never wanted Marsh. Like, we didn't want Marsh. Most of the Americans didn't want him. Would he be better than Berhalter? I don't know. I don't know, honestly. He has more charisma than Berhalter, that's for sure. But as a coach,
your guys' pool doesn't even really fit what Marsh
it doesn't fit
it, and that's a big part of it as well. And
yeah,
and for the Canadian Federation and our money issues and the fact that, I mean, everyone knows the story with the Canadian-based MLS teams having to pitch in to get someone. I was very excited about Jesse Marsh because I didn't know what the alternative would be, and I really did believe, as I think you do too, Filippo, is that this pool was actually almost tailor-made for him to come in and implement what he wanted. Where the Americans and Jesse Marsh have almost
do you think Marsh is a better fit than John Herdman?
I think moving forward, I think so. I think John Herdman had an unbelievable run and he deserves a lot of credit. But I think when you look what happened at the World Cup and then pretty much that entire 2023 afterwards, it's almost like he hit his ceiling and we got the most we could get out of John. I think Jesse Marsh has a better resume than John Herdman did, and I think we needed someone with that resume. Doesn't mean that there wasn't better options out there, but out of the candidates that were interested in the job and what they've done and the style and the player pool, I felt for a long time that Jesse Marsh was going to be the fit. And like I said, I mean, it's very early. These friendlies, like you said, don't mean a lot, but it's nice to see him starting to put in pieces of what he believes in into this team. And I think it sticks better just because of the players that we have at our disposal. And I like the fact that he came in and, he's trying to stick to his guns, but he's making tough decisions too. Like he gave Davies the captain's armband for the first match. He went with Davies at left back. He threw in Liam Miller, a player that I've wanted to see in the national team for a while. He's been doing very well in the championship. He looks like he could be a Jesse Marsh type player. I think just given the situation, Jesse Marsh was probably the best option we got, and I was very surprised and excited that we got him. And I'm going to be curious to see what he can do now. He got 2 friendlies under his belt. We're going into Copa America. Jimmy Conrad made a joke. We interviewed him a while ago where he's like, Jesse, how long until you're back after that Netherlands, France, and Argentina start? It's not easy, and I've liked seeing him in the media as well so far. He seems very motivated, and I'm excited to see what he can do. So yeah, and I guess, Filippo, before we wrap up here, the last question, like you said, I guess, not much has really changed from the friendlies, but I'm going to open it to CONCACAF in general too. We've seen some friendlies as well, but who do you truly believe is going to have the best run out of the CONCACAF nations going forward? Is it still Canada? Does anything change?
I still think Canada has the highest odds just because of the bracket. I think I don't think Canada has a better team than the US by any means, but we talked about this. Canada was placed in the group with Argentina. So as long as they can get out of that group, they'll face Group B in the quarterfinals. And that's Ecuador, Jamaica, Mexico, and Venezuela. I think Canada can beat any of those 4. Ecuador will probably be the toughest one, and they're better than Canada. But I don't know how Ecuador will behave in a game where they'll have to take the initiative against Canada. And I think that could open up space for Canada to hit them in transition and beat Ecuador. Mexico, you guys can match up just fine with Mexico, and you know that. Jamaica, they probably won't make it. Venezuela, they're better than they used to be. They're not the punching bag of South America anymore. They're doing fine, but it's a team that Canada can beat. While the US, if we get out of the group, we probably have to play Brazil or Colombia, which if Canada had to play Brazil and Colombia, I'd probably say you guys are going out too. So as long as Canada can get out of that group, they have really high odds of making it to the semifinals. They can make it to the semifinals. It's a one-off match against Ecuador, Venezuela, Jamaica, or Mexico. You can beat them. So I still have Canada because when you look at the other ones, Costa Rica, I doubt they get out of that group with 2 title contenders in it. But even if they do, they're going to have to play US or Uruguay, which they'll probably lose. But they're not going to get out. Jamaica will self-implode. They're already self-imploding, by the way. Before it even starts, they already called up Bailey and they announced Bailey in the roster. And then Bailey said it was like fake information, fake news, whatever he said, posted on Instagram. So Jamaica's already
People love that. People love that. It goes right along.
It's really funny. It's really funny because I said that the Jamaican Federation lies a lot. They're the fake news Jamaicans for a reason. And then you have Mexico that, looking at this Mexican side, they could get grouped. But I do think they might pull second place. They might finish behind Ecuador. And then they'll play Argentina. And you know how Argentina and Mexico plays out in the knockout rounds. You know how that'll play out. So, I don't think Canada's the best CONCACAF team. But yes, I do think they have the highest odd of making it to a semifinals.
I agree completely, and there's no reason to think that this Canadian side is better than the U.S., especially after the recent results. It's not. It's just, it happens. If we would have swapped Canada and the U.S. in the World Cup, I would have probably felt we had a better chance. Same goes for here. I agree with what you're saying, Filippo. It's gonna be a fun time for CONCACAF though, and Filippo, I know you and I have talked about this years ago, even before we knew that this format of this tournament was taking place, is that we wanted to see more competition within CONCACAF, and this is a perfect opportunity. So hopefully any CONCACAF fans out there, we'll be cheering for, not cheering for CONCACAF nations, but cheering for the fact that they're in this tournament, and hopefully it can go forward like this, because it's a massive opportunity to learn a lot about your nation, take on big opposition like in Argentina, like Ecuador, Brazil, you name it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it gives creators an opportunity too. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to try to get as many creators as I can on my channel. I know Filippo will be doing the same. He's got his previews, watch-alongs. Same over here. There's going to be a lot of fun moments for CONCACAF fans to communicate.
There's one thing to all the Canadians.
What is that?
I will be in Atlanta for Canada versus Argentina to hate watch both teams. I kind of hope, I was going to say I hope for a draw, but a draw would actually be really good for Canada.
It would be.
So there's no result that I would enjoy. But I'm going to go to Atlanta. So if you're there, say hi. But I don't know if any Canadians going to travel to Atlanta.
My co-host over at One Soccer, Alex, will be there. So I might have to try to get a picture with you guys.
Alex. Yeah, I know Alex.
Yeah. He'll be there. So hopefully you two can link up. That'd be nice. But for everyone else who's watching, like I said, keep an eye on the channels. There's gonna be a lot of creators doing some awesome stuff throughout Copa America, and it should be a lot of fun for our region as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Check out Tactical Manager. We'll put his links in the description as well. And if you enjoyed this, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub. We'll see you guys soon. Cheers, friends.